Hello, I'm Tom Hartman in Washington, D.C., and here's what's coming up tonight on The Big Picture. The World Health Organization said more than a year ago that a chemical known as glyphosate, the main ingredient in the weed killer Roundup, probably causes cancer. So why hasn't the EPA done the same thing? More on that with Mike Papantonio in just a moment. Also, the reality show continued today as Donald Trump finally had his much-awaited meeting with Speaker of the House Paul Ryan. So will the Donald end up shaping the GOP in his image, or will it be the other way around? And we lost a great American Wednesday night, legendary human rights attorney Michael Ratner. More on Michael and what he stood for in tonight's Daily Take. You need to know this. So last night we told you about how Barney Frank was going to help write the Democratic Party's platform at this summer's convention, even though he currently sits on the board of a bank that's been accused of running a Ponzi scheme. Well, the news coming out of the convention just keeps getting stranger and stranger. As The Intercept has reported, the convention's official host committee is stacked with lobbyists and corporate donors, some of whom aren't even Democrats. For example, the host committee's finance chair is Daniel Hilferty, the CEO of Independence Blue Cross, someone who's leading the fight against Obamacare, and someone who's donated tens of thousands of dollars to Republicans like Jeb Bush and Chris Christie. He's also donated $2,700 to Hillary Clinton's campaign, just for the hell of it. Also on the convention's host committee is David Cohen, the executive vice president of Comcast, which is a leading opponent of net neutrality. Cohen is also a big-time donor to Republican candidates and a leading bundler for, you guessed it, Hillary Clinton. Another member of the convention host committee is healthcare lobbyist Allison Schwartz, a former Democratic congresswoman who now spends her days pushing for privatized or voucherized Medicare. So progressive. Heading up the host committee, though, is one of the most corporate-connected Democrats around. Ed Rendell is the former governor of Pennsylvania, and since he left office, he's worked on Wall Street, joined a private equity firm that's heavily invested in fracking, and teamed up with billionaire Pete Peterson's group, Fix the Debt, which works to cut Social Security and Medicare. So, a right-wing insurance executive who wants to repeal Obamacare, a telecom bigwig who opposes the open and free internet, a healthcare lobbyist who wants to privatize Medicare, and a former governor who loves fracking. These are the people the Democratic Party wants to host its convention. What gives? And host of Ring of Fire Radio. Pap, welcome back.
How are you, Tom?
I'm well. So Debbie Wasserman Schultz ends the DNC's ban on lobbyist donations in February, and 3 months later, a bunch of lobbyist types are set to host the DNC, the Democratic Convention. Should we be surprised?
No, not at all, especially with Wasserman, especially with this thing we call the Democratic Party. You know, the Democratic National Convention is going to officially be brought to you. I mean, this is what's happening. Officially brought to you by lobbyists, CEOs, and corporate interests. I mean, there's no way you can avoid speaking those words. Let's stop calling this the Democratic Party. At this point, today's Democratic leadership, Tom, they look more like the Republican Party. They share the same philosophy, minus, here's the point, minus a few social issues. If you really drill down and if you're honest with yourself, they look exactly like Republicans, minus a few social issues.
They're like the Republicans minus the bigotry.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is, and it won't be long before we move there. You've seen the Democratic Party move little by little towards this thing that is nothing different than a Republican Party. Other than that, there's no difference between modern-day Democrats and Republicans from a decade ago. You know, Tom, here's the problem. Progressives no longer have a place in the Democratic Party. Rendell has made that happen. Harry Reid. Can you imagine Harry Reid coming out and telling Alan Grayson, who has done more for progressives in this country than anybody I can name besides Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and a handful of other people, come out and say to Alan Grayson, I want you to lose. The point is this. The establishment Democratic Party is terrified right now. They're terrified for the same reason the Republicans are terrified. There's a new generation come up, and all of these folks that have been establishment Democrats are at risk just like establishment Republicans are. And so Harry Reid, Debbie Wasserman Schultz took that order from Wall Street, for example, when Wall Street said, you got to do something about these people. You have to stop Elizabeth Warren. You need to stop the Alan Grayson types. You need to stop Bernie Sanders. You need to stop anybody who disagrees with Wall Street. Put them out of the picture, and that's what's happened. So Comcast, they're the strongest advocate now involved with the Democratic Party. Comcast, of all people, that are going to be the center stage for the Democratic Convention in Philadelphia. The advocates for TPP, they were advocates for killing net neutrality. They're helping to fund the entire event. And so then we have the executives from the healthcare industry who directly lobbied against Affordable Health Care Act. Now they're the people that are calling the shots for the Democrats. It is disgusting. If you're a Democrat right now, change your registration. Go call yourself what you are. You probably are closer, if you're progressive, you're closer to an independent. I don't know how else to characterize it. It's getting worse by the day. Ed Rendell, he's the guy that is a huge advocate for the fracking industry. Other than Hillary Clinton bundlers who've raised more than $100,000 for Hillary, the committee is made up of really nothing that you would recognize as an old world Democrat.
Yeah, basically the fat cats. I was astonished. Speaking of Comcast, they own NBC and MSNBC. And, you know, when I do my radio show, I've got a couple of monitors on. The sound is off, but it's CNN and MSNBC and then Free Speech TV that we're on. And I got into the studio this morning around 8:39, and from then until at least 3 o'clock or so, thereabouts, you know, when the radio show was over, the entire time Donald Trump was on MSNBC. I mean, it was like Trump is going to a meeting, Trump is at the meeting, yeah. Trump's car is arriving, Trump is leaving, Trump's going to another meeting. I mean, it was like 5 straight hours of Trump, interrupted by one brief interview with James Clyburn telling Bernie Sanders to get out of the race because he was hurting Hillary Clinton. How does 5 hours of Donald Trump, millions of dollars worth of free publicity, not hurt Hillary Clinton? I don't get it. You know, just the whole thing is starting to make my head explode.
Well, it doesn't just hurt Hillary Clinton. It hurts American politics in general.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it debases the whole thing. So, anyhow, earlier this month, the EPA posted, then retracted a study connecting glyphosate, if I'm pronouncing that right, an ingredient to cancer. The World Health Organization has already labeled glyphosate a potential or a probable, carcinogen. So why did the EPA retract its study?
Well, because the EPA is just like the FDA. There has been so much influence, corporate influence with the EPA. You know, as you know, these are the types of cases I handle. I'm always amazed that there haven't been Department of Justice indictments of what's going on with the EPA and the FDA right now. So today we have the World Health Organization telling us what independent researchers and scientists have been saying for a long time, and that is that Monsanto's Roundup is a probable, understand, this is a big deal. For IARC or the World Health Organization to say that Roundup is a probable carcinogen, that is a major, major leap. Hardly ever do that, which means that they're positive that the chemicals in Roundup cause cancer in humans. Lab tests have been shown consistently that these chemicals cause cancer in lab animals. The relationship between what we see in monkey studies and what we see in humans is direct. You don't find a better surrogate relationship between testing animals, such as primates, and the results that you can expect in humans. We see the direct relationship. Monsanto responded to this news the same way they did when their chemicals Agent Orange or aspartame and PCBs were linked to cancer. They told us that the scientists were wrong, that they're smarter than anybody in the room. They cherry-picked the data to make it look worse than it actually is. They created this glyphosate task force. This is very interesting. People don't understand what's happening. The media gets this report from this task force. It's Monsanto. They create the task force. The corporate media doesn't have enough sense to ask the question, who are these people who are saying that this is all ridiculous science, that there's nothing to this? These are the very people who are selling Roundup. Roundup, they tell us, is safe, it's environmentally friendly and non-toxic. We know that's a lie.
Yeah. Is Monsanto also helping sponsor the Democratic National Convention?
It wouldn't surprise me. As you know, Hillary Clinton, look at her ties to Monsanto, GMOs, you name it. Monsanto gets what they want from the Hillary Clinton family. Yeah. More importantly, the thing that you see about Monsanto, I've operated case against all of these folks, whether it's DuPont, whether it's Pfizer, whether it's Merck. Monsanto knows deception better than most corporations that I've worked against in America today. They're well financed to the point that they can create as many front groups as they want, pay off as many scientists as possible, and what they're trying to hide from consumers, here's what's awful. They're trying to hide from consumers that organization after organization has said that Roundup is related to ADHD, Alzheimer's disease, autism, birth defects, brain cancer, breast cancer, kidney disease, heart disease, ALS, MS, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I could go on forever. The problems that we're seeing. Parkinson's disease, for example. What happens is this is a cumulative type of product. It builds up in the human body year after year, and we're spraying 100 million tons of Roundup every year, both on farms and around our own households. The chemicals are so potent, Tom, that they're detectable in human bloodstream within 30 minutes of exposure. Very unusual for that to happen. And here's the worst part. Neither the EPA or the FDA test for Roundup residue on crops that are sold throughout the United States that your family and everybody else's family watching this program eat every single day, because the EPA is owned and operated by companies like Monsanto.
Well, to that point, Pavan, in the last minute we have left here, am I correct in understanding that the science that is submitted to the FDA and the EPA to justify things like glyphosate is not necessarily peer-reviewed science out of Science or Nature magazine, that it's actually produced by the corporation itself?
No, not at all. It is not peer-reviewed. It may be peer-reviewed, but by the industry. The FDA, it's not like the FDA or the EPA has independent scientists that can pay the kind of money that these corporations pay to absolutely phony up science. There's no other way to put it. They phony up science, they make the science work to whatever end they want, and in the end the FDA simply has to buy it.
Amazing. Mike Papantonio, always great to see you, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Coming up, Donald Trump finally met with Speaker of the House Paul Ryan today, so will he make the Republican Party in his image or the other way around? I'll ask someone who knows the Republican Party inside and out right after the break.
Most people think to stand out in this business, you need to be the first one on top of the story, or the person with the loudest voice, or the biggest ratings. In truth, to stand out in the news business, you just need to ask the right questions and demand the right answers. Question more.
Today in London, David Cameron is hosting an What? That can't be right. An anti-corruption summit? Whoa! British comedy is truly the best!
have run for the presidency with the kind of name recognition as Hillary Clinton. She has an established name and is also the establishment's trusted candidate. Though among many voters, she has significant negatives. Barring an upset, she is positioned to win her party's nomination. The question is, can she win the hearts and minds and votes of the American people?
Do we speak your language? Want news, programs and documentaries in Arabic? It's all here on RT. Reporting from the world's hotspots, VIP interviews, intriguing stories. Are you here? Then try RT Arabic. To find out more, visit arabic.rt.com.
The Pope is trying to change the mindset and the habits of people in the Vatican. He can't do anything alone. He needs people. It is important to have the support of the people, Catholics all over the world.
Welcome back to The Big Picture. And so the reality show continues. Earlier today, Donald Trump finally sat down with Speaker of the House Paul Ryan to talk about how the two of them can unify the Republican Party. That meeting, which was held right here in Washington, D.C., came just 1 week after Ryan said that he wasn't ready to endorse Trump as the Republican nominee. Ryan didn't budge from that position after today's meeting, but he also said that talking with Trump was encouraging.
So yes, this is our first meeting. I was very encouraged with this meeting, but this is a process. It takes a little time. You don't put it together in 45 minutes. So that is why we had, like I said, a very good start to a process on how we unify.
So it appears that we'll have to wait at least a little while longer to see whether Trump shapes the Republican Party in his image or whether it works out the other way around. For what it's worth, he did say after today's meeting that he'd be open to adjusting his Muslim ban. But again, we'll just have to wait and see, which of course is exactly what Trump wants. It's not a coincidence that the live coverage of the Trump-Ryan meeting this morning was like something out of a reality show, with its breathless minute-by-minute updates, breaking news on Trump's every move, and nonstop analysis of Ryan's every word, and virtually no discussion of actual issues. This is the type of campaign Trump has run from the beginning, and it's one that the media is gobbling up. All the suspense about whether or not Ryan will endorse him, et cetera, it's just what Trump wants. It keeps the focus away from the actual issues and on Trump himself, which, let's be honest, is all Trump really cares about. Joining me now is Bob Ney, journalist, former Republican U.S. Congressman from Ohio, and author of Sideswiped, Lessons Learned Courtesy of the Hitmen of Capitol Hill. Congressman, welcome back.
Thank you, Tom. Glad to be back.
Thanks so much for joining us, Bob. Do you agree that there's a reality show feel to all of this? And if so, isn't that what Trump has always wanted?
Oh, this is Hollywood. Make no bones about it. Trump is a celebrity. Now, we can call him bombastic. Friends of mine say he's driving the clown car. He's a celebrity. I mean, he's gotten to that status. Look, I watched today to cover the news, Tom, all right? And it was tough to get some of the TV news because they were sitting outside an office, it looked like downtown D.C., waiting for Trump to come out of a lawyer's office.
For like an hour. You know, I remember it was like breaking news. Trump goes into the office. Then breaking news. Trump's in a meeting. Then breaking news. Trump's coming out of the meeting. It was crazy.
It is a reality show, and I think part of it, obviously, is the networks are making money off of it. But beyond that, they have become captivated with Trump. Now, today they announced that 20 Washington Post reporters have now been sicked on Trump, and they're going to investigate him. Why are 20 reporters waiting till now? You know, first of all. So that even makes news. And the reaction of that's going to be, is going to be nothing. So, Trump has mastered not just, the, quote, Fox channel, which it would be expected. In fact, he had trouble with Fox, as we know. He's mastered all of them, in a sense. Now, I don't know if he did so much of it. Somebody today brought up an interesting issue. For years, he's provided jets to use, hotel rooms. Somebody brought this up today. I don't know how true that is, but somebody within the media was saying that. But it is, Tom. It's one big reality show, and everybody waited breathless to see what was going to come out. And you know what? Find coverage, because I can't, of somebody needling